Okay, imagine this. One of the most powerful rulers on Earth sends a list of the universe's biggest, toughest questions to his rivals. Now, imagine the only person bold enough to actually answer is a young and pretty controversial mystic. That's the wild 13th century intellectual showdown we are diving into today, the story of Ibn Sab'in and a Holy Roman Emperor's very probing questions.
I mean, it seriously sounds like the setup for a movie, doesn't it? But this is a true story. You've got a Christian emperor, one of the most powerful men in the world, sending out this philosophical challenge to the Islamic world. And the person who steps up to the plate, it's not some established, famous scholar, but a young and, frankly, notorious mystic.
All right, so before we get to his mind-bending answers, we really need to understand the man himself. Who was this enigmatic philosopher from Al-Andalus? So our story centers on this figure, Abu Muhammad Abdelhak ibn Sab'in. He was born around 1217 in Al-Andalus, which is now modern Spain and Portugal. He grew up right in the heart of this incredibly vibrant Islamic civilization in Europe, a place just buzzing with new ideas in philosophy, science, and mysticism. From a really young age, Ibn Sab'in got a reputation for being, well, different. He was not the kind of guy who was happy with easy, surface-level answers. He pushed every boundary, questioning everything and everyone as he dove into these huge questions about reality and what it even means to exist. And let's just say this earned him a lot of admirers, but also a lot of very powerful enemies. And this is where our story really kicks off. A message arrives from all the way across the Mediterranean, and it's from a very, very unexpected source. On the other end of this exchange is Emperor Frederick II. Now, you gotta understand, Frederick was not your average ruler. His court down in Sicily was this amazing melting pot of Christian, Muslim, and Jewish thought. The guy was endlessly curious, and he wanted answers to life's biggest questions from the absolute greatest minds he could find. And Frederick wasn't messing around with simple questions. No, he was probing the deepest mysteries of existence. He's asking things like, is the world eternal, or was it created? What's the real purpose of theology? And what exactly is the soul, and is it immortal? You know, the huge questions heavily influenced by Aristotle that philosophers had been wrestling with for centuries. So these questions get sent out to different rulers who pass them along to their top scholars. But here's the thing. Most of them got cold feet. The questions were theologically trippy, politically sensitive. But not Ibn Sab'in. Still in his 20s, he just jumps at the chance. And he doesn't just answer. He responds with this confidence, some might even call it arrogance, that was just stunning. This one single act was about to put him on the map across the entire known world. You can see right here how answering those Sicilian questions was the turning point of his life. It set the course for his entire journey. Sure, it brought him a ton of fame, but it also put him under intense scrutiny. His radical ideas and his refusal to back down made him super controversial, and it forced him to keep moving across North Africa before he finally found refuge in Mecca, where he lived out his final years teaching and writing. So what were these ideas? What was so revolutionary and so controversial that it shaped his whole life? Well, to really get Ibn Sab'in, you have to understand one single central concept. This is it. This is the core of his entire philosophy, Wahdat al-Wujud, or the unity of being. Now, the idea sounds simple, but trust me, its implications are absolutely staggering. For Ibn Sab'in, reality isn't a collection of billions of different things. No, in truth, there is only one thing, one single, absolute, unified being, period. And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. When Ibn Sab'in says, there is no one in reality but God, he means that in the most literal way possible. Everything you see, everything you are, isn't separate from God. It is an expression of God. So, and this is the crucial part, there's no real fundamental difference between the creator and the creation. Think about it like this. Are the waves separate from the ocean, or are they just the ocean expressing itself in a temporary form? For Ibn Sab'in, we're all like those waves. People, planets, animals, even our own thoughts. They all look separate and distinct. But in reality, they're all just manifestations of that one single ocean of being. Now, that is a radical idea, and Ibn Sab'in knew it, which is why he didn't write simple, straightforward essays. His style was complex, it was dense, it was full of symbols. Because he believed this kind of truth couldn't just be learned from a book. It had to be experienced. His writings were meant to be more like a map, guiding you on your own journey toward that realization. So, as you can probably imagine, not everyone was on board with these ideas. This radical way of seeing things created a controversial legacy that pretty much followed him for the rest of his life. The heart of the conflict really comes down to this. Traditional philosophy, the stuff inherited from thinkers like Aristotle, it breaks the world down into categories. You've got your cats, your rocks, your trees, all separate things. Ibn Sab'in comes along and basically says, nope, you're all just looking at the waves and completely forgetting about the ocean. All these distinctions you're making, they're an illusion. In reality, it is all one. So why was he so divisive? Well, first off, for many traditional theologians, saying there's no distinction between God and creation, that sounded an awful lot like blasphemy. He was even accused of heresy. Second, his deliberately difficult writing style just frustrated a lot of scholars who thought he was being obscure on purpose. Third, he didn't just disagree with giants like Aristotle, he sharply criticized them, which was a huge no-no. And finally, his personality was, let's just say, sharp and uncompromising, which definitely didn't win him any friends in high places. And this brings us to the real question he leaves for us, a question that echoes all the way from his time to ours. If he's right, if all the boundaries we draw between me and you, between us and the universe, if they aren't ultimately real, then what does that actually change about who we think we are? He never made it easy for his readers, that's for sure. And his works continue to challenge anyone who tries to understand them. The journey of Ibn Sab'in, a journey sparked by an emperor's questions from across the sea, became this profound exploration into the very fabric of reality itself. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes the most radical answers come from the most unexpected voices.